You're watching the Poco X3 GT disassembly. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. And if you need any tools, there are links in the description. First, the SIM tray needs to be removed. Once the SIM tray is removed, you need to apply heat to the back plate using a hairdryer or a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then you can use a plastic pry tool to pry the back plate off. Here's a look at the plastic back plate. There's a graphene foam pad on the inside. There are 16 Phillips screws which need to be removed. Once all the screws are removed, we're going to place a plastic pry tool in between the back housing and the frame of the screen, and then we're going to run it along the edges and pop off the catches. At this point, we're going to lift up the back housing from the right to the left. And be careful since the fingerprint reader is still attached to the main board. We need to start off by disconnecting the battery cable first. There is a second cable which runs from the battery to the charger port down here, so that also needs to be disconnected. The two cables for the battery are probably needed for the 67 watt turbocharging. Now the fingerprint reader cable can be disconnected. The back housing itself is plastic. The glass camera lens cover is held down with adhesive, so if you happen to break it, all you have to do is apply some heat and gently pry it off. The NFC antenna is located next to it, and there's an antenna flex cable to the right side of it. On the other side, we can see a large graphene film over here, and one on the bottom. There are also more antenna flex cables around the back housing on the inside. The front-facing camera cable can be disconnected and removed. There are two more flex cables on the bottom of the board which need to be disconnected. And there are three coaxial cables on the right side of the board which need to be popped off and disconnected. Now the 64 megapixel main camera and the 8 megapixel ultra wide camera need to be disconnected. Once those are disconnected, we can lift up and remove the main board. This is the 2 megapixel macro camera lens, and that can be disconnected by just popping off the cable. There's a secondary microphone located on top underneath the shield, and there's a copper heat transfer tape over the shields. Also, the LED flash is located right over here. Once the copper tape is peeled back, we can see thermal paste on top of these chips. When it comes to removing the battery, there are provided pull tabs over here to help you pry the battery off. Here's a better look at the battery. The battery adhesive sticker can now be peeled off. Once the battery is removed, we can see the screen cable which is routed through the opening in the mid frame. Also, this flex cable connects the main board to the subboard. That can be disconnected and removed. Now we can lift up and remove the speaker assembly. The blue coaxial cable is connected underneath the speaker assembly, so we're going to have to disconnect that. Here's a better look at the speaker assembly. There's a mesh filter over the opening, and here's the other side. On the subboard, the other two ends of the coaxial cables need to be disconnected. Now we can lift up and remove the subboard. There's a rubber gasket around the charger port, and the primary microphone is located underneath the shield. On the other side, there's copper tape over the shield over here and some thermal paste. Once the graphene pad is peeled back, we can see a large copper vapor chamber which sits underneath the battery, as well as runs underneath the motherboard. Moving on, there's a haptic feedback motor on the bottom right corner. There's also a liquid damage indicator on the bottom next to the charger port. There is a second liquid damage indicator underneath the SIM reader, and the earpiece speaker is located on top and it's held down with adhesive. These two cameras are also held down with adhesive, and the proximity sensor flex cable is located right above it. And finally, the flex cable for the volume keys and power buttons is located right here. As far as repairability goes, I give this phone a 6 out of 10. It's not too difficult to pry the back plate off or remove the back housing, but removing the speaker assembly on the bottom and subboard is more difficult. Now it's time to put the phone back together. Once all the screws are back in place, apply new adhesive and reapply your backplate. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.